Hey guys, so I'm going to talk about context management, which every Claude user should be knowing it. So think about it. You have been working for a while, a very good session. Things were going great, and then slowly, almost without noticing, Claude starts getting a little weird. Responses is off, and then it contradicts something it said an hour ago. It forgets a decision you made together. It produces code that doesn't match the style it was following perfectly or which you have defined in your claude.md file. And just 30 minutes earlier, all was good, right? Everything was working fine. And now you started thinking about, is Claude broken? Did I do something wrong? No. What happened is completely normal and completely fixable once you understand context management. So this is the concept which beginners normally struggle to understand. They just think Claude gets worse over time in long session, which is not the case. The developers who understand this concept keep getting great results no matter how long they work. That's what we are covering right now. Now let's try to understand this six concept. Okay, six concept on this diagram, three action on the bottom. Okay, these are the three action, and these are the six items which we should be knowing it. Okay, so let's start right away. Everything starts here. The context window. The context window is the single most important technical concept to understand about how Claude Code works. Here's a simple explanation, right? Imagine that Claude Code is a desk, okay? Let's say this is a desk, okay? And think about it that on that desk, there is a limited space, okay? There is a limited space, and on that desk, right, you can only have a certain number of stuff on the desk. Your conversation history, the one which you are talking to Claude, okay? Your code files, your claude.md file, okay? The errors it read already, the fixes it made, and all of it goes on this desk, right? This is the desk, okay? Think about it like this. The context window has a size measured in the token, okay? Tokens are just chunk of text. Roughly one token equals about 4 characters, so about 3/4 of a word, right? So any conversation which we are doing, it fills that token. Let's say this is a claude.md and this is a 1000 word documents, is going to be roughly around 750 tokens. Now current Claude models have very large context window. For example, you can see here, right, 200k tokens, right, which sounds a lot, right? And it is, but in long active coding session, this gets filled pretty quickly, and you can fill it faster than what you think, right? Now one thing I want to add is, don't worry about memorizing token counts. You don't need to think in token. Just remember, right, the disk has a size limit, okay? That is what you need to remember. The disk has a size limit. The fuller it gets, the worse things going to happen, right? That's all you need. Now let's try to understand, right, what is the context rot. Okay, what does it mean by the context rot? It is very important to understand, right? So as your session gets longer and more goes onto this desk, right, you start filling this up, right? So Claude starts spending more effort just managing everything on the desk itself than actually thinking about your current question, right? So it's still trying, it's still working, but the quality, right, it start degrading, and responses get a little less sharp, a little less consistent, a little more, the generic. So let me give you a real sign to watch for, right? How you will know that there is a context rot is going on, right? So let's say you were working on this project, and suddenly what happened that you and Claude agreed, let's say you have some rules within this claude.md file, right? Now Claude is not following any of these rules which you have specified it. For example, I mean, as example, right, You have these coding rules, you have this project structure, you have this tech stack, and suddenly you are noticing that Claude is not following your coding rules. Claude was perfectly following your, the TypeScript's convention. Now it is suddenly writing JavaScript again, something on that line, right? Now response is getting longer and not up to the point, right? So instead of precise, focused answers, Claude starts giving you the longer responses that feel like they are covering their bases rather than actually solving the problem. That could be another sign. Now, another sign could be that it is asking the same thing which it already knows, what framework you are using, something on that line, right? And which you already told, I mean, few hours ago, yeah, which is already defined into the cloud.md file. So the moment you notice any of these signs, stop, right? Don't keep pushing, hoping it is going to get better. It is not going to improve, right? You have to take action, right? So now let's try to understand and token usage and cost and how it is interrelated. Quick but very important, right? Every token Claude processes costs something. Input tokens when you send to Claude, right? Output tokens what Cloud sends back, both count. So if you think that it is only the input counts, that is not the case, right? Input and output both tokens are part of your the cost estimate. So, and here is the thing, right? If you are on the monthly subscription, let's say you have a Claude Pro subscription, which is okay, right? That is fine for some middle ground uses every day. But for heavy users, for developers who is using the API directly, context management directly affects your bill, right? So here's the connection. A bloated context means more tokens processed every message, right? And that means that it is going to affect your bill, right? So the now question is that what are the habits which you can control your cost, right? Number one, let's come back here. Use the compact. What is mean by the compact, right? So there is a command which is called, let me use this one. Let me show you what does it mean. Look here, the compact. Free up context by summarizing the conversation so far. So use compact regularly in the long sessions. Another option could be that clear. You can use the clear to start all together a new session. And I will talk about is that when you should use what, right? .md file concise and small. Don't try to put like 2000 lines in the Claude.md file. Do not paste entire large files when you need only a smart part, right? So let's try to understand the session management, right? What are the different things you can do to improve this situation? How you actually manage the session well. So here's the framework, right, which you can use. Keep using this command context. Okay, now look here, what context is going to give it to you. Look this one. Okay, so if you are actually within the long session, try to understand it, that how much space you have already filled up. For example, if you see here, free space 144k, 72% token limit, token space is left in it. So what actually it means that this is great right now. I mean, you have still 70% left to fill it up. I will just give example, right? Here, let's say I say that create 10 button component. Now it's trying to now it's going to work, and then we will check the token again. So right now it is free space 144k. Now let's take a look just in a second, right? How it impacts. Okay, let's give few seconds. Okay, let it to do. Now take a look here, 35 seconds, 2.2 tokens, right? So ultimately these things are going to bump your the token usage, right? Now let's run the context command one more time now. If you guys remember, we had 72% that time. Now take a look here. Now it is 66.3%. So as your session is going to, longer and longer, this is going to fill up. So how to manage this one, right? So keep checking in between. So think about it, right? If you have only filled under 40% the token limit, you are good. That means you still have a lot to go, right? So you are good. Now, the moment you are between 40 to 70% already filled up, this is when you have to start thinking about it, that this is how much it is in the context, and consider the compact that time. It means you are in the session and now your token usage is already between 40 to 70% filled. Use the compact so you can summarize that conversation, right? You can compress that, the conversation. The moment your usage is more than 70%, you have to act right away, because this is the time when Claude is going to mislead you. The responses is going to be degraded. Do not wait until you notice the quality dropping, right? And that is the time you should act it right away. Okay. Now, one thing you can do, that the moment you are reaching 90%, right? And if your task is not completed, ask Claude to summarize it. Okay. You can ask Claude to summarize it and give that the summary, and then start a new session and give that details. What Claude will do, Claude will be able to pick it directly from there. Now, what could be the rule of thumbs, right? When to use compact and when to use clear and when to use restart, right? Now, let's say it is all together in not a related task at all. Your best option is that clear it. And clear actually, what actually it means, that use the clear command. What actually it will do, it will wipe your the conversation. It will start a brand new session. Let's take a look here, right? We have free space 66.3%. I'm doing clear here, and now let's check the context here, and you will see just now. Look here, the free space 73%. And if you might be wondering, hey, why 73%, right? The reason being that this auto compact buffer which you see, so Claude actually uses some of the already reserved space. So 33k token, 16.5% it always use. It keeps this amount always as a reserved memory. Think about it. And then some of the other things, whenever you start a new session, like I told you, right, it always uses some of the tokens for things like, the system prompt, system tools, memory files, your cloud.md file, right? This is the one. And then skills with it loads. It's just like operating system, right? If you have the Windows operating system, it always takes some of the reserve space, right? So same thing happens with the cloud as well. It uses some of these tokens already, and this is where it is going to start filling up once you will start having more conversation. Okay. So we did talked about that when you should be using compact, when you should be using clear. What is mean by the restart? So restart means that completely closing out the Claude session itself. So for example, you exit and you come out from the Claude itself and then restarting Claude again. Now, when you should do that, believe me or not, right? Sometimes you have to restart your machine if your machine behaves weird. So things happen, right? So you did everything, you use the compact, you use the clear, still Claude is behaving weird, right? You are not able to figure it out what is going on. Sometimes in those cases, it's better to start a new session, a new Claude session at all. So where everything start from the fresh. So to summarize is context management, think about it that it is your desk, right? Fixed size, everything your session takes up that space. Context rot, what happens when the desk gets full, right? That is when the context rot happens, right? And this is when and if your desk get full, quality drops, right? Was for contradictions, style drift, vague responses, forgotten information, token usage connects directly to your cost. Okay, if you are an API customer, this gets very important that time. Now, session management, what are the different techniques to manage it? You can use the compact technique, you can use the clear technique, and in worst scenario, you can use the restarts. And that's it for this session. Thank you so much.